Excited.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. We are so excited because this is a topic that I have been requested to cover for so long, and I am not an ads expert. I actually know very, very little about ads. So I'm very excited to have Drew and Natalie here with me because they're going to teach us all the things. So we're very excited. And as usual, let me know in the chat, where are you joining from? We love to see. So yes, let us know. I see Jen is in Lancaster, Jesse, Montreal. Okay, I think we all have a rainy day because it is very rainy here as well. We have Drew and Natalie in Toronto. Guelph, love it. Oh, Lyle, it's sunny where you are. I'm jealous. It has been raining here like since yesterday. It has been bad. Love it. Oh, sunny in Charlotte. Jealous. All right. Okay. I'm jealous of everyone who's in warm, sunny weather.
Me too.
Yeah. Very, very jealous. All right, well, keep sharing in the chat where you're joining from, and I will dive right into it. So if you stumbled across this webinar, maybe on LinkedIn, or maybe someone sent it to you and you are unsure what HeyOrca even is, we are a social media management tool for teams and agencies. So we're here to assist you with all of your social media scheduling. And my favorite part is that we have unlimited users. So check us out if you haven't heard of us before. And we're also on social. All of our profiles are at HeyOrca. So you can find us anywhere. So you can check that out. And we'll do a very quick round of intros. So my name is Alyssa, and I'm a community strategist here at HeyOrca. So I work on our webinars, our newsletter, Facebook group, all that kind of stuff. And I'll pass it over to Drew.
Hey everyone, I'm Drew. I'm the co-founder of Search and Gather. We've been going for about 9 years. We're a digital marketing agency based out of Toronto, Canada.
Awesome. So happy to have you. And I'll pass it over to Natalie.
Hi guys, my name's Natalie. I've been working with Drew for about almost 5 years now at Search and Gather, also based in Toronto. And my main role as Director of Strategy and Growth is to support a lot of our clients with growing their businesses and then also growing our own business. So excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, we're very excited to have you here today. I cannot wait to learn about everything you're going to share. But as usual, before we dive into it, we have to go over our giveaway. So there's 2 different ways you can win an Amazon gift card. So the first way is super easy. We have a poll going on right now on our LinkedIn. The question is, what's your biggest challenge with paid ads right now? So head over there, vote on the poll, and you're automatically entered to win. And that winner will be announced tomorrow. And then the second way to win is you can share something that you learned in this webinar on LinkedIn, tag us, and you're automatically entered into that second giveaway. And since creating a LinkedIn post takes a little bit more time, you do have until Tuesday at noon for this one. So 2 different ways to win, which is very exciting. And I do want to mention, if you want to connect with Drew or Natalie, we did put their LinkedIns in the chat. We also put their website there as well if you want to check it out. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to Drew and Natalie now, who have so much to show us and teach us. So I will pass it over to you.
Cool. I'm just going to share my screen here. Awesome. I think it's up there now.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having us today, and Alyssa for walking us through the intro. We're super excited to be here and to talk to you guys about how to run digital marketing in a more impactful way, especially when you're on a budget. Just to dive a little bit into our background, I know we did quick intros, but we're a digital marketing agency. We were founded in 2016 by Drew here, and we're headquartered in Toronto, but we have clients all across North America. So ranging from, local to Toronto all the way to, I saw some Arizona, some Texas, also clients from there as well. So on top of that, we work with businesses at varying sizes. So all the way from startup, maybe they're working off of a grant, up to enterprise clients as well. So catering this conversation a little bit more to those that are wanting to get started with digital ads, or they're running digital ads, but they don't have these massive budgets. What are some tips and tricks that you guys can apply to your own campaigns and still get that level of impact? So I'll dive into it right now. So to start, the way that we like to refer to it internally is through our S&G approach. That comes from search and gather approach. And there's really three main steps that are involved in building out our S&G approach. The first one, audience and intent. The second one, creative connection. And the third one is ad platform know-how. With all of that, we need to be able to track it, and then you know how you can spend right from there. So this is what the bulk of our presentation today will be diving into. And with that, I'll pass it over to Drew to start with audience and intent.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nat. So I think the first thing is kind of figuring out what platforms work for you. There are a lot of platforms to choose from. So we're going to kind of dissect the two main categories, intent-based and interest-based, and which ones might be the best choice for you to start with. So essentially intent-based could be considered anything, for the most part, with a search engine where people are looking for specific things, looking to buy something, looking for services. So this could be Google ads, Microsoft ads, Amazon ads. YouTube has a search feature as well. And I guess we could consider remarketing as intent if they kind of have been to your site or added something to your cart as well. The second category would be interest-based. These are people that are more kind of scrolling through a platform, whether it's kind of a social media platform or professional platform. Could be meta ads, so Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn ads, TikTok or Twitter X ads. So if you are on a limited budget, depending on what you're offering, intent-based is a good place to start, because on Google and Microsoft and a lot of these search engines, you can bid on specific keywords which show intent. So you can only spend money on things that you think are valuable or will result in higher quality users that might convert on your website. So we have some examples on this slide of a SaaS client, say Slack, some search terms or keywords you might want to bid on, and then like an e-commerce client, a smart fan, you might want to bid on something like buy a smart fan, or quality fans, or fans that use technology or apps or integrate with Amazon or something like that. And then same thing with services. You can bid specifically if you are an HR lawyer, like on HR lawyer, hire an HR lawyer near me, things like that. Things with like a clear intent. So to make sure you're spending your money wisely if you have a limited budget. Interest-based is also a good option for some companies. It kind of depends what your product or service is. LinkedIn is kind of like unrivaled in terms of its audience targeting, since you can target for job titles, industries, how senior someone is. If you're offering something that needs that targeting, LinkedIn is a very good option. Meta, Instagram, and Facebook, it is more of like a scrolling platform, but if you can target the right audience and demographic, it can be very effective. We'll go into a little bit more of the platform setup and know-how later in the presentation, but here are just some quick kind of ideas in terms of targeting for the same types of clients that we talked about on the intent-based slide. So, you can target for interests, like whether someone's been looking for team communication, if they have specific job titles for the Slack example, whether they're an HR manager or an owner of a company, the company size, maybe it only makes sense for companies over 10 or 20 employees. Similar thing with the smart fans on Meta. You might want to find people that are interested in fixing up their homes, or just looking for home appliances in general. Maybe they just bought a new house. Maybe a certain age bracket makes the most sense depending on how much your product costs. And you can always use something called a lookalike audience based on kind of previous purchasers. You can create an audience that kind of behaves and looks like them, and which is a very effective tool as well. Yeah, and then we'll pass it to Nat for the creative chat.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Drew. Just continuing on what Drew was talking about between, an intent audience versus an interest audience. The second approach really ties in the creative connection to that. So on the next slide here, I'm showing a few examples of different creatives that our agency has worked on. And really the common denominator among these are that they're all engaging images. They use like branded colors, but really bright colors that are going to stand out in a feed, and make you stop your scroll, and actually connect based on what your interest is or your intent is through that targeting. The other thing that this has in common is it's clear and transparent what the ad is actually asking you to do. So if you can see the top example in green here, Vita, one of our clients, it says aging in place packages, and then for your loved ones. It's very clear what that ad is telling you. It has their brand logo on it, and it has a graphic that you can relate to if you are seeing this ad on your feed. Another example would be Coinbase in the bottom, a little bit of a larger client, but in this example, there's a clear promotion that they're offering and a clear CTA on how to redeem it. So being as concise and as clear as possible while still being bright in your branding can be really effective when it comes to stopping that scroll. Another option here, I think that in a world of AI, it's given us a lot of tools and capabilities that previously cost a lot to develop. So if you are a small business, you don't necessarily need to have a massive budget in order to put together this really professional video. I have one client, actually, Crofters in the bottom here, and they have a new product launch of a new jam, and instead of paying for this huge ad budget to build a commercial, essentially, they just filmed themselves in Target, and they put that on their video to show the use case of how to actually pick up that jam at their local retailer. So finding creative ways with UGC or user generated content can be really effective when it comes to trimming that budget overall and still getting that engaging message. And then two more here, they kind of go together. The first one is using tools like Canva to save a lot of time. Canva has a lot of preset templates, and you can also just duplicate an existing ad into different sizes if you need through Canva's templates. So that's a really great tool. They have a freemium model as well that you can use in order to get that engaging content and still meet the size requirements on these different social channels. And on the topic of AI, kind of going with the above, Canva has an AI feature, but also ChatGPT is a big one, where you can get creative inspiration through searching on ChatGPT and prompting it correctly when you're stuck on any messaging. So just a tip for you guys, I have a prompt here that you guys can try out, and the deck will be shared after, so you can copy paste it there. If you are looking for a more kind of intentful prompt, you can kind of plug and play with this to get some good messaging associated with your ad copy.
I just have a quick question here from the chat. Do you ever worry about having too much text on a post? Like what's the good amount to have?
That's such a good question. I think it really depends, going back to what Drew's talking about. Your first step is to align with your intent and align with your audience. So if it is a more B2B product where there's a lot more decision making that has to go into that final kind of decision to onboard that product, then I would say you can lean a little bit more text heavy, and have that on the page so that you can tell the user exactly what they're looking for and they know what it is. So you're not paying for those, we call it like clickbait. You're not paying for those clicks that aren't actually interested in that full product. However, if on the flip side of that, if you're just an e-commerce business and you're selling a product that doesn't need a lot of explaining behind it, jam is a perfect example. You either love jam or you don't. You can get a little bit more creative with that ad and be less text heavy. In this case, just calling out key features. It's organic, it's sweet, it's fruity. We don't need to describe what jam is. Cool. The second part is, on the creative front, that's where someone's clicking and seeing your ad for the first time. But once they click through to that page, it's also important that you have a landing page for them to land on that is also tied to the creative that you just run. So in this day and age, most of clicks that are coming through digital ads are coming through a mobile phone. So it's really important that you not just think of your landing page on a desktop browser, but you also look at it on a mobile optimized page. So here's an example where it adapts depending on which interface that user is on. On the left, you have the form very present in the headline, but on a mobile, that could get really messy and hard to fill out. So making it a button that pops up rather than is included in that desktop can also help with what we call that conversion rate. And then lastly, I think this goes a little bit without saying, but test, get creative, be experimental with a lot of your creative, because sometimes it's something that you didn't expect that ends up working, and you want to iterate off of that. So here's a helpful framework that we like to use to get up and running when you are testing for the first time and starting with your creative. Start by making sure your audience is online and you're able to kind of target them. Then move into what channels would best fit that target audience that you've highlighted. And with that, design those ads, as I mentioned, if you're B2B or if you're e-commerce, with that in mind. Once you launch, make sure that your settings are in place. We'll talk a little bit more in a minute here on platform know-hows, but make sure your settings are in place and then start testing and optimizing with, usually we recommend like 3 ads at once so that you can see a couple different variations, but you're not giving the platform too many variations that it's not statistically relevant when you get your answer. Cool. I'll pass it back over to Drew. He'll go a bit deeper into the ad platforms. Oh, I think you're on mute there. There we go. Perfect.
Thanks, Nat. So I'm just going to go over the main 3 ad platforms for today. Most of our clients are on two or three of these. But yeah, so Google Ads is kind of a good starting spot. Again, you have that intent. You can kind of target keywords that people are searching for your product or service. So I'll just give you some kind of best practices on Google Ads. If you have a limited budget, it's better to stick with kind of the search side. Avoid things like display and PMax and demand gen until maybe you get more budget or more creative assets, or you just kind of are a little more adventurous and you want to test something new. But search usually has the best results out of the gate or with a smaller budget. So we'd suggest sticking with that to start. When you do set up your campaigns and your ad groups, it's probably best to stick with exact and phrase match keywords. These keyword match types, result in search terms that most closely resemble the keywords that you put in. Where if you're using broad match keywords, it's kind of up to Google's discretion to find things that are can be even remotely similar to what you put in. So it's some funny search terms that pop up for broad match keywords, and you can kind of spend a lot of money that way. So we'd advise to avoid that if you can at the beginning. And then a sub point of that is kind of like once you get going, especially if you have phrase match keywords going, check your search term reports. It's usually where we check after a few days after launch, just to make sure we're showing up for the right search terms. Because if you're not, you'd want to negative those pretty fast. So just to make sure you're not spending on things that aren't relevant to your business. And you can check that. There's a screenshot here of where you can kind of check your search terms in the platform. And then, yeah, I think choosing a good bidding strategy is important. When you're starting a new campaign and you don't have much data, you might want to choose like a manual CPC or a max clicks to get the campaigns going. But once you get enough conversions, we'd suggest kind of switching over to max conversions or max conversion target CPA pretty fast. So you can kind of leverage Google's algorithms and conversion data and just kind of, yeah, it incentivizes them to kind of get more clicks from users that are likely to convert, which usually has a better results for your business.
I have one quick question here. How much overlap is there with SEO keywords and ad search words?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it depends how your SEO is set up, I guess. But if it's set up well, there's probably some overlap with what you should be bidding on or what you'd want to bid on. Again, it would be like the most relevant searches to your business. So hopefully you'd be targeting that on the SEO side on some of your pages as well. But I mean, depending on your budget, you might want to go further away from that and test variations or a longer tail versions of those search terms or keywords. Yeah, not sure if that answers the question, but
That's perfect.
okay, so for meta ads, this can be a powerful platform as well, especially if there might not be that many search terms for you or if, that are relevant, or if the interest in behavioral targeting can really match your audiences. So yeah, I guess that's the first point, like making sure to, take some time setting up your audiences, whether it's putting in kind of specific interests or behavior of that audience, or the, setting the demographics, the age, the gender, kind of location, that would most likely kind of hit the people that would be interested in your business. And then, there's also other tools, like I mentioned, called lookalike audiences, or you could do remarketing for people who have been to your site. And all of those are very powerful as well, because they kind of find people that have that intent and are more likely to have that intent. And if you're on a small budget, it's better to kind of start there than start with like a broad audience and just kind of spend a lot of money testing. Yeah. And like Nat went over, strong creative is really important. A lot of these platforms kind of really punish you if you just kind of put in bad creative or things that aren't engaging with their audiences. If the click-through rate's low, you'll end up paying a lot more for each click. And not only that, like it might not resonate with people, the message, and they might not end up converting even if they do click. So taking a lot of time and getting the creative right is important. And also for Meta, just like making sure that you just start on the main ad placements. So like, Instagram, Facebook feeds, stories, if you can get the custom creative for that, maybe marketplace if you have a e-com product, reels, the right-hand column's pretty good. Things to avoid would be the audience network or the instant articles and the explore page. You can uncheck those at the beginning just to conserve your budget for the placements that are more likely to convert. Another thing to consider is just like how much of the traffic is actually mobile. Most of the time it's over 50%, sometimes more like 70, 80% from these platforms. So just making sure that you have that mobile friendly landing page is very important, and like a clear call to action and conversion point for them so they don't have to scroll through the whole page to find it, kind of thing. It's important to kind of make sure your conversion rate's strong and your ads are effective. Yeah, and then just similar with creative, like testing like 1 or 2 different concepts is good on these platforms. Maybe you want to try 2 different audiences, but we'd suggest if you do have a limited budget, kind of controlling that and just not spreading your budget too thin across 5 or 10 campaigns. Making sure you do like a good test with like 1 or 2 campaigns or ad sets, so you can get the data to determine if it's effective quicker. And also you want to get out of like the meta learning phase, so that the platform can actually not leverage the conversion data you have well. That's important as well. And then LinkedIn ads, yeah, like I said, very powerful B2B platform. It can be a little bit more cost prohibitive, but if your audience is there and it's the only place you can reach your audience, it's definitely worth a try, since you can target job title, industry, kind of along with all the other kind of demographic targeting options. We've also seen a really good success with conversation ads. You kind of get in people's inboxes of your target audience and just kind of start that conversation. Most of the time you get ignored, but we do see sometimes 10-20% open rates. So there is some engagement as well. And it's a little bit more of a more intimate touch point than just kind of having an ad in their feed as they scroll past. Yeah, and then again, it can be high CPCs, so just kind of be cautious with your campaign settings, and I wouldn't give LinkedIn too much free rein to spend, especially at the beginning. Yeah, I'll pass it to Nat for the tracking section.
Cool. Thanks, Drew. Yeah, LinkedIn can be expensive, but you're paying for premium is what we like to say. So it depends what your goals are there. Jumping into tracking. So I mentioned this is kind of the final approach. And once you have your strategy down pat, when you actually build it on the platforms, you want to make sure that it is tracked properly, because if you don't have the right information, then you're optimizing towards the wrong goals and the wrong data. And so there's really 3 key kind of tips here that we would have. The first one is identify what those key conversions are. And everyone's going to have a different key conversion. For example, if you're an e-commerce business, that may be a purchase. If you are a software-based business, that may be a lead form submission. So just identifying what that conversion is to you, and then making sure that you're actually adding it properly and tracking it in the platform. Some of the ways that we like to set up tracking to make sure it is accurate is, instead of installing your pixels and all of your conversion events individually and hard coding them on your site, try and install it through something called Google Tag Manager and leverage and import into Google Analytics 4. You can test this through GA4 has a real-time tab within the platform that you can test to make sure that your conversion events are firing properly. And that way it all lives within that one code, and you just have to install it once on your site rather than having it be across all of your pages. So that's a big tip and helps keep that tracking accurate. Kind of touching with the first one, optimize to conversions. Drew mentioned this as well, but once you are getting enough conversions in platform, instead of running on something like manual CPC or max clicks, try and move as fast as possible to that max conversions or target CPA bidding strategy. And the benefit of that is that once you have enough data in platform, Google will actually start optimizing to those conversion events that you set, or those key conversions that you set. This is something on Meta that you can actually do right from the start. So as soon as it's firing, you can set that as your main kind of optimization goal. And then going forward, you know that your campaigns are always optimizing to that key event rather than just an engagement like a click or, a landing page view. Cool. That's the end of our presentation. There's so much more that we could share, but wanted to give you guys the main tips there. And I think, Alyssa, we can open it up to questions at this point.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, we have a lot of questions here, so we will dive into it. So the first one is, can you recommend a keyword research tool other than the one built into Google Ads?
Yeah. For sure. One that we use internally. So Google Keyword Planner is a good place to start for anyone that is researching. We also use something called SEMrush. That's another one that we found really helpful. And specifically, there's a tab within that called Keyword Gap, and that is really helpful. You can put in your keywords and maybe some of your competitors' URLs, and try and see what they're bidding on at the same time and what that overlap or gap is.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. The next one is for meta ads. If there are a small/new business, would you recommend doing meta ads or Google ads?
What's their business?
True. Good point. Good point. The question just had smaller.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you have enough keywords, I'd choose Google. But if it's kind of like an unknown product, or like you don't think you'll get enough searches to, make enough volume to hit budget or get clients, and Meta's a good way to get your new product out there. But yeah, I'd probably go Google first.
Okay.
I saw in the comments too, I think someone wrote restaurants. That might be the industry. Still, I would stick with Google to start. People that are searching for, local restaurants, and making sure that your targeting is more regionalized across that neighborhood rather than, choosing the full city or the full province or state. But if you aren't seeing good success right away from that, because it could get competitive with the restaurant industry, a lot of people looking for reservations and that type of cuisine, being very geo-focused in your targeting on Meta could also work well, and offering any sort of, last minute tables or special kind of unique value ads that you would get from eating there versus somewhere else.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. The next one is, do you have any tips on how to get started with testing creatives? Is it just A/B testing on Meta?
Ooh, good question. Do you want me to take this one, Drew?
Sure, yeah.
So what I'll do is, Alyssa, I'll share a link for you guys. It's called our creative playbook. And it's just a link that you guys can go and see what that testing strategy is that we use internally, with some examples. But A/B testing is a great way to start when you don't have a huge budget, because you don't want to have too many ads in market and then none of them have enough spend associated with them that you can't really make any reasonable findings. So we recommend having a control variant with a maybe more experimental variant, and then whichever one performs better, start iterating off of that. And you can do A/B testing on your creatives, but you can also do A/B testing on your audiences. I think people often think of A/B testing specifically just their ads, but try different audiences. Maybe your demographics perform better than life events, or maybe there's if you're selling one product, there's a similar product that you could go after, people that are interested in that would also be interested in your own product.
Okay, cool. The next one we have here is, how long is the meta learning phase?
Depends.
That's a good question. I think it's actually like a conversion volume that it needs to hit. I'd have to look up what the actual number is, but I think when you go in, you can kind of see if it's gotten into the learning phase or not. I think it might be like a couple dozen conversions or something like that.
It's about 50, but it can be different results. So
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Another one here is, what media type do you use/see the most for LinkedIn ads? I've seen a huge increase in document posts for ads.
yeah, that's a new placement. Document ads are really good for more kind of top funnel generation. So if you have the content, maybe you're writing blogs or you want to give people a little bit of a preview, you can absolutely try out document ads and collect their email. But if you don't have a huge budget and you are looking to get, people that are a little bit more further down the funnel, I would still probably stick with like an in-feed. One thing to consider about LinkedIn is a little funny where you can't test different types of creatives in the same campaign. So just remember when you're setting it up, if you have video, definitely try something with more motion or animation. But if you don't have that available to you, then just stick with static for now.
Okay, cool. Another one here is if you're starting from scratch and can't do a lookalike audience, how many interests do you think is the sweet spot?
I think it's more like audience size versus your budget. Most of the time you can see what Facebook or Meta estimates as your audience. So you can kind of add some interest and see what the audience is sitting at. So, if you had like $5,000 to spend in a month, like you probably want to have at least kind of, 30 or 50,000 people in your audience. Yeah, so you just want to make sure it's kind of proportional to your budget in terms of audience size, just so you're not kind of slamming the same people over the head too often. And you can check that with the frequency kind of metric. So if that starts to go above 5, you might want to expand your audience or test a new audience or split your budget. But yeah.
Cool, perfect. Another one here is why would a business want to track adding to cart over a purchase?
I can take
Sure.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It actually kind of goes back. I think someone had asked like how many conversion events are needed to kind of exit that learning phase. If you don't have enough conversions that you can get in a month to exit that learning phase, a good option is to actually optimize to something that's a little bit more up top of funnel, but not quite clicks. And so if you optimize to something like add to cart, you're going to get more of those conversions in platform. The algorithm can still build to a more qualified user. And then you can exit that learning phase. And then the second good reason for doing it is that you can build a remarketing audience off of those that have reached the add to cart, but maybe not converted yet. So by excluding those that have purchased, but then targeting those that have just added to cart, you're almost reinforcing them, to go back to their cart and complete that checkout process with different creative and different messaging to touch them again.
Okay, cool.
You can do a lookalike audience as well for the add to cart if it's a bit bigger size.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, cool. And I agree with Lyle. She says, such a great answer. I agree. We have a few more questions here. I know we're almost getting up on time, but we have one question here that says, if you're running 2 ads within a Meta campaign and one is drastically outperforming the other, do you recommend turning off the lower performing one or just letting it do its thing?
I think definitely turn it off and just maybe get a couple more variations to test. Yeah, I think if it's like double the CPC or double the cost per CPA, like you can spend that money more wisely on the ad that's performing or like some new ads to test.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Another one here is, do you have any paid ad course recommendations? We had a couple people ask this. Were there any resources or courses or anything like that people can check out?
Drew trained me, so that's my course. But I honestly think that you can pay for a lot of courses, but the beauty of digital marketing is you can find a lot of free courses, and YouTube would probably be the first place I would go. Is a lot of people share videos, they share training articles of how to set up campaigns, and then on top of that, the specific platforms have a lot of free courses that you can use. And look at for free. So I think Meta's is called like the Meta Blueprint. And then Google also has a lot of courses. They have different objectives. So keep that in mind when you're reading through them. But that would be my recommendation over paying for something.
Okay, cool. And I'll do one more question here. Is it true that Instagram is more used as a search engine? If so, are Google ads still more recommended than Meta?
That's a good question. I think it depends again, like what your product is, but if you think it might resonate more on Instagram, you could try to just do that placement or specific placements where there is more intent, like search. But yeah, I think I would always choose Google Ads over Instagram to start, just because you can control things more. And Instagram's CPC is a little bit more of a barrier to entry. It's a little bit more expensive to start on and gather data. But yeah, it might be better for some platforms, but I'd say 95% like Google is probably better to start.
It's an interesting question because I know TikTok has come out with a new placement type being search ads on TikTok. So I think we are moving into a world where, Google isn't the only search platform, and this is evolving, but I do agree with Drew. Start on Google.
Awesome. Thank you. And I do want to mention, I think just up in the chat, Jesse has shared Drew and Natalie's LinkedIn's and then also the Search and Gather website. So definitely go check that out, connect with them. And a recording of this will go out probably tomorrow, and we can put a link to the slides as well. So if you want to look back and check anything out that we went over today, you can definitely do so. But thank you so much, Drew and Natalie, for joining us. This was so helpful, and I can already feel like we need a part 2 at some time because there's just so much to go over. So that was amazing. Thank you so much. And Lyle did just put the link to the poll on our LinkedIn in the chat. So make sure to enter or vote on that poll to be entered to win an Amazon gift card. But yeah, that is everything today. Thank you so much, Drew and Natalie. It was awesome having you.
It was awesome to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your Thursday and a good weekend.
All right, thank you. Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.